Welcome back, horror fans, to Week in Horror Podcast. This week we're covering September 6th through September 12th. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Eugene, and with me is JL.
How's it going, everybody?
And returning the guest host with us, he's the host of The Plot Hole and one of the four beardsmen of the apocalypse on YouTube. We have Johnny O.
What's up? Hey, everybody.
Now, I believe we have some kind of announcements for our series season finale.
Yes. Oh my God. Well, first and foremost, we have to acknowledge this is our 50th episode.
That's insane.
That's a lot of episodes.
That's like 47 more than I thought we were actually going to do.
Oh, it's freaking wild. 50. You know what? Okay. We will do a retrospective. We will talk about this stuff on the season finale. We're gonna have a lot of fun on the season finale. For those who are checking us out and may not know, although I've been blasting it everywhere, yes, our season finale is September 16th. September 16th at 8 p.m. and we will be live streaming that on YouTube from the Week in Horror Podcast channel. It's going to be a hell of an event. We got special guests stopping by, special industry guests coming by. We've got trivia, we've got prizes. We got all kinds of cool stuff. We cannot wait to pardon me, I cannot wait to interact with our fans, who so far have just been listening to us, and occasionally they email us and everything, but I'd love to show them how we make this show and what goes into making this podcast. Because we're going to be recording the show as well. So we'll be doing the podcast live, and then of course audience interactions and all kinds of cool stuff. We got so much stuff planned, and it's literally consuming every moment of every day. I'm actually really nervous about this. But I do want to make the announcement. I do want to announce what films we will be discussing on the season finale. I did announce this kind of in a surprise kind of announcement over on the Four Bearsmen of the Apocalypse, because someone in the live chat actually asked me which ones we're going to be talking about, and this is the official announcement. That was kind of just a surprise thing I did on the fly. But the movies we will be discussing are Seven, The Void, Shaun of the Dead, and 1960's The Carnival of Souls.
That is a killer lineup.
Yes, I'm definitely looking forward to not only talking about those movies and hearing people, just kind of hearing what the audience thinks about them, but also the trivia that we have will be is aligned with those films. So we've got your Seven trivia, your Shaun of the Dead trivia, Carnival of Souls trivia, and The Void trivia. Now, any major horror fan, if you're a hard fucking core horror fan, you will know the question. You probably know the answers to the questions that we're going to be asking. I'm going to be asking one question per film. So it would be a big thing. So only one person can win. I've got 4 major items. The giveaway prizes we're going to be now. I'll show those on the actual live stream, so you guys can see those, because right now they're still kind of packed up and wrapped up. So I don't want anything to happen to them. But we'll be debuting those on the actual live stream. The prizes we'll be giving away. But if you know your shit, really know your shit, go back and watch those films that we just mentioned. Watch those movies. Read about them online, everywhere you can find information, because the trivia that we have is hard. These are tough questions. Yeah,
these aren't questions that you can just Google real quick and then respond. You're going to have to actually do some digging to find these answers.
Yeah. And so those who know their stuff, the real horror fans are the big time horror fans. I'm going to say real horror fans because we got lots of real horror fans. But the really hardcore horror fans, they're going to know this stuff. And so if you really do your homework and bone up on those 4 movies, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm also really, really curious. Eugene, did you heard about the recent news regarding The Thing, right?
Oh yeah, I have.
Quit talking about me.
I recently picked up an article, and I thought it was rumor at first because I've kind of seen drops along social media. But people are talking. But the word has gotten out that John Carpenter is teaming up with Blumhouse. The minds behind the new Invisible Man and the Halloween reboot and everything, or not really the new Halloween sequel, or actually it's a trilogy now. But they're going to be bringing back The Thing. And I went back and looked at the article. It says it's going to be a reboot.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be. And John Carpenter himself did confirm it, so it's real. It's a real deal. That's really going to happen. And it can't be a remake of his own movie. That would just be stupid.
Yeah, that I don't think that would play at all. So, how do we feel about that?
It really just depends on where that story goes. I have a sneaking... If it's a reboot... I guess you could do it in the desert? I don't know. It just depends where they take that story.
Yeah, it depends on the location, because the thing is, with the Thing being so powerful, you can't have it in any kind of metroplex, any kind of suburban area. I mean, it would just get out of control and conquer the entire world, which we talked about that in our Bloodbath a couple of months ago. But
we did.
Yeah, we did.
The Thing versus the Blob.
And one of the things is the Thing is so powerful, like it had to be located in Antarctica. So either they're going to go back to Antarctica or the North Pole Arctic Circle, or maybe a desert, or maybe...
You know what they're going to do?
Yeah, it would have to be like a desert or something. But even then, I don't know.
Mark my words. It's going to be in the ocean.
But there's so much life in the ocean, too.
I agree. But it's going to be an ocean thing.
That's interesting, especially since, because, the Thing has very strong Lovecraftian vibes.
Is exactly the reason why I think it's going to be an ocean thing.
And, but with underwater, right. The Kristen Stewart vehicle that just came out, the director pretty much confirmed that, that was Cthulhu that we saw at the end of that movie.
Right.
So I'm kind of like, I've noticed that a lot of Lovecraft is coming back all of a sudden. With Cthulhu showing up in underwater, a reboot of the Thing, yep. Lovecraft County on HBO, The Void, Color Out of Space. I'm a little concerned because I just recently finished my novella, my Lovecraftian novella, and it feels like I finished it, and then all of a sudden the wave of Lovecraft is coming again, like a resurgence. If somebody wanted to buy it, I'd fucking sell it. Hell yes. I honestly think it would make. I honestly think it would make a cool series. I think
you should start pitching it, even in its unfinished state, right? Even if this is your third rewrite.
I would say unpolished. Well, at this point, yeah.
But you're looking at your third rewrite, correct?
Yeah, I wouldn't say rewrite. I'm not changing anything in the deals. I'm just cleaning it up a little bit.
That's still called a rewrite.
Just like, is it a rewrite? Is that officially a rewrite?
It's officially a rewrite. Anytime you change I think if you change 10% or more of your book, it's a rewrite.
Okay, so yeah, then this would be the third rewrite, yeah.
Regardless, you should shop it around because it does seem to be really popular now.
Yeah, because the thing is, with the push on intelligent horror right now, things like Lovecraft, people are gravitating towards that.
Yep.
So it's definitely in. Shop it around.
Yeah. And of course, I also find it very interesting that just now, 2020, people are starting to jump on the cancel Lovecraft bandwagon because obviously Lovecraft was a racist, he was a xenophobe, he was a really, really messed up guy. But it kind of takes a messed up mind to dream up the shit that he dreamed up at the I think it was the late 1800s that he dreamed it up. There's no excuse for what he was. It was kind of the mentality of where he lived. He would he was living in Massachusetts and that area, and it just was kind of that society in which he lived, that small society he lived in. But he was also a recluse. He never really went out. He was just a strange guy. And now all of a sudden, with the resurgent interest in Lovecraft, there are groups that are trying to cancel him, which I find just totally fitting for 2020.
Yeah, that's obviously people in the past, they have their own different moral code, their own kind of mindset back then. And I just prefer to judge people's work on just their work.
Yeah, it does bring up that interesting question of how do you separate the art from the artist? You got a lot of people that don't particularly care for. Well, that's probably not the best way to say it. You got a lot of people out there that despise like pedophilia and whatnot. But you look at like Walt Whitman or what's his name? Golly,
Edgar Allan Poe.
well, Edgar Allan Poe for certain.
Yeah.
But no, I'm thinking of Ginsberg.
Oh yes, yeah,
Mhm.
Ginsberg.
Yeah. They look at his poetry and they're like, oh, that's really, poetry, this, poetry, that. But then you look at the guy, he's like, well, he did want to, bang boys. And by boys, I mean 14-year-olds. So,
I mean,
how do you separate it? Can we separate it? How
Well, we
far
ran into
away
this-
from it do we have to be to be able to separate it?
Oh yeah, we ran into the same kind of thing when discussing Victor Salva's works, because Victor Salva, despite the extreme issues in his personal life, the films he's delivered have been fantastic. Clown House is an amazing film for a first time director, and what he was able to accomplish with that movie was great. That was a scary fucking movie. And then, of course, he gave us Powder, with Flannery,
Right.
yeah.
and of course, the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers. So he also gave us a horror icon, of which he's done 3 films of. So I can understand the animosity and the desire to cancel Victor Salva because of his past crimes. Or I can understand that. I do. I feel that. But his contribution to the horror genre, I don't think can be just arbitrarily just chucked out. Given what has been built off of what he, what he contributed, because of the advantage of the Creeper, a new avenue of genre development has occurred because of that story that he told of that particular monster. So I don't know where the line is. I'm not going to hazard to guess where the line is. I think it's extremely subjective to the individual.
Mhm.
Sure.
Obviously, personal experiences are very, very weigh very heavily in this conversation. I'm not one for cancel culture because I think a person can be separated from their works. If someone does one thing, like Ginsberg, I'm an extreme fan of Ginsberg's works, Angel-Headed Hipsters and all the like. I love his works. The way he viewed the world was unique, and I read his stuff in high school, and I still love it to this day. But yeah, I'm not gonna. He was a bad guy. I mean, or he did bad things, yes, or societally bad things, but I don't know. It's like I said, it's a tough conversation to have. I know we all have different viewpoints on it.
And yeah, that's something. Maybe we'll do some kind of special podcast where we'll talk about that
Like
a
this
little
one.
bit, like this one.
Yeah. Normally we don't get into huge deep topics like this in the like the previous week anecdote section of the script.
Right.
But it is a conversation to have. It's an important conversation, and I believe that where someone decides they fall, where an individual, even a horror fan, even a big time horror fan, where they decide that the line falls is entirely up to them, and is completely valid for them, for their reasons, because that's their personal experience, that's their personal viewpoint, that is their opinion, and their opinion is not invalidated just because it may be unpopular, or their opinion is not invalidated just because someone disagrees with it. So everyone should be able to, I don't think there should be infighting amongst the horror community as to what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. I just happen to be one of the ones that can separate it. No, I despise Victor Salva for the acts he did. He did pay, he went to prison, he did his time, so on and so forth. And, he's a bit of a creeper as a person, but as a director, as a creator, I fucking love his movies. I do.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we kind of, without getting too far off into the rabbit hole here, I guess the issue for me is if we validate their work, then by proxy we almost validate them as a person.
But if you look at some of the thought points of, say, like post-structuralism, where once art is created, the artist is dead, because then you create your own interpretations of that work. No one cares what the artist intended it to be. It's how you see it. So if you go on that mindset that the artist doesn't matter after the art is created, then you can separate the two.
Yeah, I've never been one for that. Being a writer myself, I write what I write. I know what it means, and people who don't know people who don't get the meaning that I put on paper got it wrong.
And that's a whole nother rhetoric.
Yeah, it really
and thought process.
Yeah, well, there's also the thought that the art that what you're viewing is a whether it's fictional or not is a reflection of the artist at that time.
Sure.
Like I watched the first movie Jeepers Creepers, and all the little things in there is a reflection of the person who wrote the story and is now shooting the story and has created this.
Right.
That aspects of the film, not just characterizations, but viewpoints of the film are the viewpoints of the person. And it's a reflection of him. I'm seeing this aspect of this world through his eyes. Or through that individual's eyes. And some people can't break past that barrier. And I get that. I absolutely get that. I do. Maybe I'm able to separate from it. I don't know how I'm able to break. I can see the breakdown is that's the art and not the person.
Right.
Yeah, because since the art is its own entity, it's like the whole thing of if you create a drama and you direct and you film a drama and then you show it on the screen and everybody laughs and thinks it's a comedy, then is it a comedy? Or is it still a drama?
As a director.
But if people appreciate it as a comedy, then some people argue, well, no, it's a comedy. It doesn't matter what the director intended; it's how it's received, and so therefore it's a separation of the two.
Right. What's the Pagliacci joke? A man walks into the doctor's office, says, "Help, doctor! I'm suffering from just incurable depression. I can't get out of it. Help!" And the doctor says, "Hey, the clown Pagliacci is in town. You should go see him. He'll help lift your spirits." And the man says, "But doctor, I am Pagliacci."
Yep. There you go. There you go. Totally.
Jesus Christ.
What? Well, I mean, that's the notion. Is like, however people view it. Week in Horror, our intention has never been to cancel anybody. We do address, that there is controversy. And sometimes there is very, very stark controversy. We do address that. But we're not going to shit on the works of somebody just for the sake of shitting on their works. Or like this. A person makes a contribution. We judge the merits of the contribution, not the merits, because we're not here to judge the merits of the individual. We're here to judge the merits of the work. That's a solid
argument against it too, right? Is like, we're not saying that what the person is awesome. We're saying what the person made, right? I get both sides of the argument for certain.
Definitely. That, and of course, because Alex is out, Johnny O is covering Alex tonight.
Yep.
And as usual, Alex will remind us, we're fucking here to talk about horror movies.
Hey guys, we're here to talk about horror film.
Where do we think we are? Fucking the plot hole?
Well, if you were, you'd be cool. All right, so what
every Friday night at 8 p.m. rockmetaltalk.com.
That's right.
Oh, thank you.
I appreciate that. Now back to the horror films. What exactly do we have first on the docket there, Eugene?
All right. Released September 7th, 2007, we have the movie Hatchet. And it was directed by Adam Green, and it stars a whole slew of people. You got Joel David Moore and Tierra Feldman, but you also have Mercedes McNabb, Tony Todd, Robert Englund, and the great, well, also Robert Englund, also great, and Tony Todd, and also the great Kane Hodder.
My man.
You're talking about Tony Todd, Robert Englund, and Kane Hodder in the same movie.
Well, okay. Well, but don't throw it out because they all appeared in the same movie in Wishmaster as well.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Also that too.
Yeah.
And then
where was Kane Hodder in Wishmaster?
Kane Hodder was a security guard who actually made the made Andrew Divoff when he was in his human form. And Andrew was like, "Isn't there something that you want, something you want very much?" And Kane Hodder was like, "I want you to go away." And the dude was like, "Oh shit!" And he was turning around like, "No, I have to get in there." Ah. This shit was hilarious. It was like, "No, I have to. I must get in there." And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, I'd like to see you go. I'd like to see you go through. I'd like to see you do that because you have to go through me." And then he was like, "Oh, I can turn that." And he turned it into a wish, and he actually, he turned him into like glass, and he just shattered him and shit. But yeah, Kane Hodder was a security guard.
Yeah.
Tony Todd was, huh?
I guess I don't remember that because I only remember the second one of that film.
Oh, okay.
That series. Yeah. Anyway, Tony Todd. Yeah.
But you notice how they do that. They will when a new icon, when they want to present a new horror icon, that other like legends will come around and then get killed by that icon to kind of reinforce the badassness of that icon.
Well, that's how you give it. That's how you give it validity, right? So that was Wes Craven. So that's the reason why Robert Englund was in there. Wes Craven said, "Hey, Freddie." He said, "My name is Robert."
See, I always love that because the Wishmaster shows up and he kills Tony Todd, he kills Robert Englund, and he kills Kane Hodder all in the same movie. And then, I thought that was fucking brilliant.
And then the Wishmaster turns to absolute dog shit.
It did. It turned to dog shit after Andrew Divoff left.
Okay.
Because I thought Andrew Divoff was amazing as the Wishmaster.
So back to Hatchet.
But yeah, back.
Yes. Back to that. Back to Victor Crowley.
Yep. But back to the Hatchet. I mean, you're run of the mill. You have a couple of college students in New Orleans, and they're enjoying Mardi Gras, and they decide to take a boat tour of an allegedly cursed bayou, meeting up with a couple of other tourists, and then a serial killer comes up and starts killing them. And picking the members off, and some great kills in it too.
Yes, as is typically the way. But I love the Hatchet series, not only because it was directed by Adam Green, who's one of my favorite horror directors, because he directed the horror film Frozen, which was fantastic. But he jumped on this one. It was not the Disney movie.
Let it go. We don't want to get. That's all I'll say.
But Adam Green did fantastic in this. But the driving force behind Hatchet was Kane Hodder, because Hatchet was intended to be kind of an 80s slasher revival. So 2007 comes along. Kane Hodder has been out of the. The shoes of Jason for a bit. The last time he played Jason was in Jason X, and he was left out of Freddy vs. Jason, so it's kind of like, where's Kane Hodder? And boom, he did show up occasionally here and there, just, kind of playing like normal characters, not a horror icon. This is where he kind of made his big splash, where he came back, because we got Hatchet, Hatchet 2, Hatchet 3, Victor Crowley, and there's a fucking comic book series based off this thing. And I love what Adam Green and Kane did in kind of like paying homage to the genre, the kind of the era that made them, the 80s, slasher. That, I love that formula. I love that mix. Idiot people going to bad fucking places and terrible fucking things happen to them, and it is hilarious how it happens to them. And the best thing about this is that for the longest time, Kane Hodder's favorite kill. Let me ask you guys, what do you think Kane Hodder's favorite kill of all time before Hatchet was?
Oh, it was a tree trunk. It was the sleeping bag kill.
The sleeping bag kill. I thought it was sleeping bag kill also. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he said that was his number one favorite kill of all time, was the sleeping bag kill. Until Hatchet, when it's the kill where he rips the chick's face in half. That is now his favorite kill that he has ever done on screen. So Kane Hodder, the man, he was he's such an amazing guy, and I hope everybody gets a chance to meet him. You can definitely catch him. He loves meeting his fans. He loves going to conventions, and just a badass dude with an awesome fucking story.
And I want to say about that kill is so well executed too, because it's a smooth transition from, like, he hacks the guy, right? He hacks the old man, he dies, and then he grabs her, and the camera does like this, like, interior 360. on it,
Yes.
and it's just a super smooth transition. And so when they switch to like the prosthetic head, because obviously prosthetics are way
wasn't
better than
real?
straight CG, and it just seamlessly goes around him, comes, you see her, and he just rips her apart with a tongue flapping around. It's a great kill.
It's fucking hilarious.
Danny, you feel like this was Kane Hodder kind of saying "fuck you" to not being cast as Freddy or as Jason and Freddy versus Jason?
I would actually give that a resounding yes. I would.
Because it seems like this is just Friday the 13th, except in 2007 with a couple of different things that are changed, right? Because it
was definitely a Jason homage there.
yeah. Oh. I mean, I would go farther and say it was just a retelling of the Jason story. I mean, if you think about it, they changed mother into father because it's still the same deformed kid that gets picked on at school. It happens on the lake, just a different lake, more of a swamp, but
A bayou.
Yeah, I could see it's kind of a retelling of the Jason formula, but I mean, you go with what works.
Oh, I'm not knocking it by any means.
Yeah.
To me, whenever I was going through this film series, looking at it, thinking, man, this is really Kane Hodder just saying, "Fuck you for not hiring me because I can still do this shit."
Hell yes.
Oh, yeah.
And he absolutely can. The dude is unfucking stoppable. Obviously a born monster, character actor meant to play monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, his out of character characters are good too. I mean, the guy can genuinely act.
He can in his and as evidenced by the small thing. I think. Oh my god, what was it? Fucking Gunnar Hansen directed kind of like a horror Expendables.
Oh yeah.
Do you guys remember that?
No, I missed this one.
Okay, it was oh my, I'm totally gonna space on the name of it. The dead room, or son of a bitch. Oh fuck, I'm gonna fucking look it up. It was literally like right before his Death House.
Okay, Death House.
Oh yeah.
Yes, so it was like basically the horror Expendables.
Right.
And Kane Hodder was off the fucking hook in that one, and I honestly think Kane Hodder was playing himself. Just big, angry, and just, like, I'm gonna fucking kill all of y'all.
Yeah.
But he was also kind of like the anti-hero of the thing, like, which was interesting. But he just came off the way, when I met Kane, I was like, holy shit, I think he's just being himself in this movie. Just kind of how he is, just naturally, just like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck your mother in hell. What are we having for lunch? I'm like, I don't fucking know, man.
How are you so nonchalant with this?
But even the little bits, I loved it of the 3 cameos. And this was so weird because when I want to go back to Wishmaster real quick. Because because Kane Hodder he can act. He actually can. As opposed to most mute brutes, they really can't. They're just big and imposing and scary. But like, you go back and watch Wishmaster. Andrew Divoff has a very established career. The Wishmaster was just one thing in that career. So he has done dramatic, he's done comedy, very, very successful actor. A lot of fun to watch. So he was fun to watch. Normally he's kind of a dramatic guy. But him playing the horror icon was really, really cool. And then you could see Tony Todd, and Tony Todd does Tony Todd. I'm big, I have a big gruff voice, I'm very intimidating. There I am. And Robert Englund trying to act outside of Freddy. I don't think at the time he'd really gotten the hang of it. He'd been Freddy so many times that it was almost like a very.
He did okay.
I thought it was.
His
it just felt like a very reduced.
Well, his character's supposed to be over the top in that scene. I think he.
It just seems like a very reduced Freddy. because the stuff that he has now, I mean, one of his Night World, his movie Night World, he was fantastic in that. So he's definitely gotten better at being out of the shoes of Freddy for so long.
Yeah,
and he's definitely gotten to establish himself as as kind of like Robert Englund, the actor. But Kane, there's this moment, that fucking moment, and it was delivered so perfectly. And it was just one line, which goes to show his talent. Was when the Wishmaster's trying to get into the museum thing. And Kane Hodder's a security guard, big buff security guard. Yeah, I'm here to keep people out. And he's like, I need to get in. And he's trying to entice him. He's like, isn't there something you really, truly wish, or you really, truly desire? And Kane Hodder just leans in. I want you to go away. And it was just his delivery. It was perfect. It's such a simple line, but you'd be surprised how often a simple line can get fucked up in a movie.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
But he drops that. It was just like, yep, that's pretty sweet. It was like, so yeah, the guy does have talent, and to get him for him to, I guess, to convince Adam Green to come in and direct, to convince the people behind it, say, hey, Kane Hodder is back. He can do this. I wish I had more information as to kind of the process by which Kane went through, because after being left out of Freddy vs. Jason and a couple of little spot things here and there, people might have thought he was done, but he obviously showed that he wasn't.
Oh yeah, like I said, I think this was very much. Well, you guys really missed the boat because look, I'm doing everything that Jason Voorhees would do, just under a different name.
And I think it is a response to the fact that he was left out, and the fact that no one's really come back to him to play Jason. So it's like he's like, well, I still want to do Jason things, but I can't use the name Jason Voorhees, so I'm going to use the name Victor Crowley instead.
Yeah,
right.
And that's why I don't dig it. That's why I really hope one day we get to see Kane be Jason again, because no one's been able to bring Jason his voice like Kane Hodder did, and just the way he physically emotes is fantastic. His mastery of his body, his awareness of his body as an actor is phenomenal. So he's able to do, whereas Robert Englund is a master of what he says. Of his dialogue. He's a master deliverer of dialogue.
Right.
And Tony Todd, he's got that voice. He's just iconic, just the imposing image of just terror right there. And the way, Kane Hodder, they've all got these unique traits, and Kane Hodder, he emotes physically. He's the one who gave Jason his voice. Before they were just mute brutes.
Right.
Do / kill. But for the first time in Friday the 13th Part 7, I'm seeing Jason's like, holy shit, you can see the emotion behind that. Either the anger or the rage or the frustration or the even the curiosity in some respects. It's just kind of like, it's there. And Kane was the first to do it, and he solidified, which is why he fucking played him for 4 goddamn movies.
Yeah. You said something a minute ago about, and that it just really struck me as would be an excellent thing. I would love to see the Week in Horror podcast too. You talked about the Expendables of horror.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Do I have to spell it out for you? I would love to see the Week in Horror podcast do like their arguments for who should be in the Expendables of horror.
Okay.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, something we might plan.
That is an idea. We have actually another idea for the board, because as it stands, us going into season 2, we do want to increase the amount of the types of content that we actually produce, and we want to do more than just this one weekly show. We want to be able to do other stuff as well. So that is an excellent idea for some future content, and I think we may tackle that. We may actually have to do a little brainstorm session on that. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll have to go and talk about it.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Johnny.
But I want to ask the audience, because we've talked a lot about Kane Hodder playing Jason again, and with the current climate and everything that's going on with the Friday the 13th franchise and with Kane, I want to actually ask the audience, do you think Kane will be able to play Jason at least one more time? Can we get one more Kane Hodder Jason Voorhees in a Friday the 13th film?
Man, I really fucking hope so.
I hope so too. Just one. Just if we have to do it, we'll make it happen.
I was just going to say, you guys get the old hashtag Kane is Jason trending.
Yes.
Yeah.
The thing that gets me is I don't like the precedent that's been set that started with Freddy versus Jason. That the reason that Kurzinger was brought onto that production was because of how big Kurzinger is. And that the director wanted very much. He wanted Freddy is about 5 foot. I think Freddy's 5'10", and he wanted Jason to be like ginormous next to him. So cinematically, he was brought in just because he's a really really huge dude. And well, the direction he was given was that, his interpretation of Jason was he's like kind of like Frankenstein, which is why Jason was kind of like just this lumbering kind of behemoth, which is not Jason at all.
No.
Kane Hodder isn't a fucking small guy. He's like 6'4", isn't he?
He's big. That's the whole point. That's why people are like, what? But Ken Kersinger like towers over Robert Englund, like big time. And the director's like, I want a giant guy to do it. And Kane was just not tall enough or whatever. But ever since they set that precedent, because after Kersinger was there, then Derek Mears took it. And Derek Mears is a huge motherfucker, which is why when they cast Jared Padalecki from Supernatural in the reboot, because Jared Padalecki is not short by any means. I think he's like 6'3" or 6'2". Mm-hmm. So Jared Padalecki is huge as well. So they needed a Jason to be bigger than Jared Padalecki. I don't like this.
It just doesn't make any sense because Ken Kersinger, he's almost. I mean, he's maybe like an inch taller than Kane Hodder. I think he's 6'5", and Kane Hodder's like 6'4".
Yeah,
it just doesn't make sense. It really feels like there was a slight there, like somebody was just telling Kane Hodder to go fuck himself.
And
I have no idea.
I agree too, because with camera angles and apple boxes and all this other kind of stuff, I mean, if they can make Bane, Tom Hardy, who I think he's like 5'7" or 5'8", if they can make him appear as big as he was in The Dark Knight Rises, when he had actual goons that were taller than Tom Hardy,
and Christian Bale's 6'1".
Yeah, so it's like, make it work.
It's really not difficult. That's why it just doesn't make sense to me. I can understand if Herzinger was like 7 foot tall versus Hodder. Okay, cool, right? That's a significant difference, but it's like an inch and a half.
Yeah,
I mean, well,
and see, it's wild. The story behind that is no one knows what really. Someone knows what really happened,
sure.
But at this point, all we know as the horror fans is that Kane says it was Donnie, or Kane said it was the studio's fault. The studio said it was Donnie's fault. Donnie said it was the studio's fault. And we've never been able to get, hide nor hair, so exactly why Kane was left out of it. Yeah. And I don't understand why. I do know that it was Donnie Yu who said he wanted, or Ronnie Yu, it was Ronnie Yu who said that he wanted that he didn't think Kane was big enough.
That's just,
or maybe he wasn't tall enough or something in that respect. And I'm like, and it's like, I'm sorry, the Uber Jason, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Kane Hodder straight up. But you think about it, when I see Freddy versus Jason, yeah, the fight scene that was kind of interesting. It was kind of cool. I mean, there were some cool moments. I don't know why Freddy all of a sudden knows like fucking Tybo and shit.
Because he's Freddy.
He did the whole Matrix thing where it downloads in his brain.
He's dropping fucking bows and shit. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Freddy don't have arts.
He was able to take Tai Chi from Bruce Lee.
I want to see some shit like the rooftop scene in Friday 8.
Yeah. Where he just punches that guy's head off.
The boxing scene. That dude boxed Jason to the fucking edge of the building until basically Jason just did the whole like stand there and take it until you're so exhausted. I'll give you a shot. And the dude just like pummeled Jason to the edge of the building till he had no gas left whatsoever. Completely out, hands shattered from punching that mask. And then he was like, go ahead, take your best shot, motherfucker. And he hit that dude one time. Pow! Haymaker.
Yep.
But that Jason was excellent. Friday 7, Friday 8, that image of Jason is what Jason is. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Never should have snubbed him. I think it was. I think there's something else going on, but what do I know?
Yeah, there's definitely something going on that. But I know with the Friday 13 franchise, they've had some legal issues, and the ownership was broken up, and so somebody owns the rights to the mother, and then someone else owns the rights to Jason Voorhees, the character, and so. It's been a mess as to why we haven't gotten another Friday 13th movie in a long time.
Oh, the split was in there as well, because somebody owns the rights to young Jason, and someone owns the rights to
old
adult Jason.
Yeah.
So the story is split in half.
And so,
which is ridiculous. So I don't know. Well, we'll see what happens. I, for one, hope that he does get to play Jason at least. I hope he gets to don the mask one more time. It would be amazing. So let us know, audience. Yeah, let us know, audience, what you think. weekendhorror@gmail.com, or leave a comment in the comments below.
all right, JL, what do we got next?
We have a serious classic. This one. Now, I've been looking forward to talking to this one like all year long, because these big ones are just so awesome to talk about. Released September 8th, 1960. We've got the movie Psycho.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Directed and produced by Alfred Hitchcock. Written by Joseph Stefano, based on the book by Robert Bloch, and starring Anthony Perkins, Vera Miles, John Gavin, Martin Balsam, John McIntyre, and the effervescent Janet Leigh. The movie follows Janet Leigh's character, and it's actually, the movie is more of kind of like, it starts as a mystery, the characters in this the characters in this mystery who wind up at this hotel run by the infamous Norman Bates, who is revealed to be a serial killer, and the craziness that happens from there. As much a character study as it was a horror film, there's a question. There's a question about this movie, and that's why I've been waiting to talk about this one. Is that there's a camp of horror films out there that firmly believe that Psycho was the true birth of the slasher genre. 1960, violence, like depicted, actually as close as you could depict violence, like the infamous shower scene, sexual deviancy, all the tropes, kind of like the basic tropes of your typical slasher film. Some people believe this is the true birth of the slasher genre. I'm kind of curious what you guys think.
Eugene, you want to take this one?
I'll start off with this, and I'll say no. Just because a film does have a serial killer does not make it a slasher film. It doesn't have enough of the slasher tropes for me to be considered a slasher film. At the very stretch, maybe proto slasher, but even to me, that's a stretch.
Okay.
I mean, I'm going to take a little different angle. I think it could definitely be seen as a proto slasher, simply because of the undertones of the film. Not just because, he runs around with a gigantic fucking butcher knife. Well, not butcher knife, but a gigantic knife. And, that seems to be like the Michael Myers weapon of choice. There were some sexual repression undertones going on there. Norman Bates definitely killed these women because he wanted to fuck them, and not because he, you know what I mean? Like that was, he was being subconsciously in his mind, his mother was telling him, no, he's terrible, he's a bad boy. And, that kind of given the root of the issue. I definitely think that the slasher genre looked at Psycho and said, we need to do this, only we need to ramp up the sex, ramp up the killings, take less of the mental horror aspect out of it, make it more of a exploitation horror.
That's interesting, because I myself actually like the kind of phrase you coined there, the proto slasher. I kind of dig that, because there is a foundational element to the slasher, to what we see as the slasher genre today. You've got the hidden killer, you've got the twist at the ending, you've got the kind of signature weapon, and you've got sex, and you've got sex and sexual deviancy, and you've got violence. Now, while it may be the proto slasher, it definitely set the stage for what would become the slasher genre, because of the boundaries that this film pushed at the time. Because while this stuff is commonplace now, I mean, if you watch Psycho today, it's totally tame. You don't see any serious violence. You see the imagined violence, or the inferred violence, Implied violence. Yeah. You see the implied violence at the shower scene. You're stabbing Janet Leigh screaming. You see the blood kind of going. It's in black and white. You see the blood going down the drain, and then she slides down the wall, and there's blood on the walls. But you never actually see it take place. You see her kind of defensive. You see the stab, and then that's it. So it's all in your mind. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, that's nothing. We got like, Saw and Hostel and, eyeballs getting pulled out and shit. And it's fucking insane. So I think the boundaries that Hitchcock pushed with this one, with putting in 1960, 8 years before Night of the Living Dead, zombies weren't a thing for almost a decade. People eating people. But would we have films like that without Psycho? Which, when Hitchcock pushed the boundaries, put sexual deviancy on film. When he put, it's not a deviant thing, but cross-dressing. Because Norman dressed as his mother when he did his kills. The violence in the shower scene, the violence on the staircase when he slashes the detective across the face, stuff like that. It kind of set the stage.
And it really did. And to me, Psycho is one of the, if you look at probably the top 10 most influential films of all time, Psycho is definitely on this list, because this was I think the nail in the coffin for the code, where they're like, you can't release, because they threatened not to release this movie, and Alfred Hitchcock didn't care. And then when the film was successful, it's like, well, now what can the code do? If he can release a film without the code and still be successful, then what's the point of having the code? So it was the final nail in the coffin for the code itself. He also pushed the thing, and it's something unthinkable today, but back then, as long as the film was playing, you could buy a ticket and then watch it. So you could show up to the theater an hour after the film started, sit down, buy a ticket, sit down, watch the second half of the film, and then wait around and then watch the first half of the film afterwards. This was commonplace in the 50s. That people, you just went on your own time. And Alfred Hitchcock was the first one to go, no, if you're not in the theater 10 minutes after the movie starts, I don't want people to come in, because it ruins the twist. So,
nice.
And so he's like, no, I don't want to do that. And that was revolutionary at the time. It's standard nowadays, but that was revolutionary at the time. So, I mean,
this standard nowadays for monetary reasons. Back then, you used to be able to rent. You were renting out the theater for a buck, and you could stay there all day and watch the same film over and over and over again.
Yeah, as many times as you want.
Yeah, and then Hitchcock said, "Fuck you."
He's like, nope, I want you to watch my film on my terms.
The way I want you to see it, which kind of falls into that whole, it's what the director says, what the artist says, not what the viewer says. Oh, and to bring back another point of how this could be and should be considered the at least a proto slasher, is that Janet Leigh did give us she was a scream queen herself, and gave us another scream queen.
Mm-hmm, she did.
Oh yeah, when we have the iconic shower scene, the music that we all know. Dun, 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 dun. I'm not gonna hum the whole thing, but the iconic shower. And I want to talk a little bit about it, because in my senior thesis film, we were doing homage to several films, and we actually went and we actually reconstructed the shower scene, and shot for shot. And first of all, this is the reason why I know there's 78 cuts in the shower scene.
There's Eugene pulling a Van Zandt.
And some of the trickery that went into putting it together. First of all, let me tell you something. The scene where you have Norman Bates come up, and he opens a shower.
When he rips open
when he rips open a curtain.
Yeah.
So
that was brilliant, because you got the camera from the inside of the shower.
Yeah, the camera from the inside of the shower.
And then it was the shadow coming up to the curtain, right?
Yes. So cameras back in then, which are bigger than cameras today, you cannot fit a camera in the shower.
Nope.
So you have to set up a shower, and we actually have to do this. We actually use kind of like a doorway. We use an actual doorway, and so the curtain coming back wasn't actually from the bathtub. It's like further back in. So you basically not even in the bathtub, because you have to basically take out that wall behind the bathtub, or you can't fit the camera in there.
Yeah, or you have the set. You have like an open set, and then you have the bathtub there, and you just film from that side. And then you just make sure that your frame includes the walls there, so you can imply the fourth wall behind it.
Yeah, exactly. But the reason why the scene is so iconic is because, first of all, you're talking about a time where bathrooms are rarely seen. You didn't see people taking a shower. You didn't see
weren't
people
allowed
using the
to.
bathroom. You weren't.
Yeah.
Because of the whole
I mean, that was
code
like-
and everything like that.
Right.
For clarification, I know we've mentioned the code a bunch of times. For any listeners that are interested, very early on in Week in Horror, in some of our earlier episodes, we spoke a lot about the production code that kind of governed what filmmakers could and could not do from the 30s to the pretty much the late 50s. And it was really, really hardcore. It was akin to the I think the close thing would be the video nasties panic that took place in England when those movies were coming out during the 80s. And so, from the 30s to the 60s, for pretty much about 30 years there was a hardcore production code on films. And if you did not meet that code, your film did not get distribution.
Mm-hmm. Like one of the biggest things they talked about Psycho was the fact that he could accidentally film a toilet. Are you fucking kidding me? It's a toilet. Like nowadays, we don't even think about that, but at the time, it's a toilet, dude. The people poop on that.
Yeah, I mean,
nowadays that's a staple of comedy now.
Exactly.
Taking a massive shit.
Right.
Oh my god!
But I mean, you're talking about the same time this was filmed. You have I Love Lucy, where they have to share separate beds.
Right.
And
that was just commonplace in that time anyway.
Everybody just shared separate beds.
Married couples didn't sleep in the same bed. That wasn't a thing.
That's just wild.
Huh,
I can't even fathom it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't just a TV thing. That was like a thing. It was just a thing.
I did not know that.
Yeah, there was a resurgence of the movement of that idea not too long ago because there was a sleep doctor, or I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember reading this article talking about it's actually better for spouses to not sleep in the same bed together because they get better sleep, so they function better throughout the day with each other.
Interesting.
To which I said, it makes sense. At least now I know when I roll over and there's nobody there, it's not because I'm getting the cold shoulder.
I was so looking forward. So glad that we got to talk about this movie and that the boundaries are pushed, because we touched on it previously in a previous episode, and how Psycho became. Obviously Alfred Hitchcock did not intend for this to happen. He knew what he wanted. He shot what he wanted to shoot. He wanted to tell a specific story, but we've seen throughout the generations that roughly every, I would say, I'm going to gauge this. I'm not saying this is a standard, but like usually every 10 to 15 years, we get a horror film that really breaks new ground in the genre and
That's
opens
fair.
up avenues for other directors. We talked about it with The Human Centipede. The Human Centipede was was a film that, for all of its disgustingness and how much people were revolted by it, it broke ground and opened up and basically kind of branched off into new avenues. Like there are films that we have today that we would not have if it weren't for The Human Centipede, and someone finally saying, hey, stitching people ass to mouth and putting them on film, this is a thing that we can do now. And then imaginations run wild from there, and we get even crazier shit from there. That Psycho is one of those seminal films, not just seminal for obviously its effect on the industry, its effect on Hollywood, and what it created, but it broke ground for other filmmakers, because once someone has the audacity that Hitchcock had to go out there and be like, this is the art, this is what we're doing, this like that, whatever, where he puts the art before anything else.
Damn it.
Yeah, we're putting this fucking thing on screen. We're gonna film a girl in a shower get stabbed to death, and we're not gonna show any of the stabbing. We're gonna see blood, but it's not gonna be coming out of her. It's gonna be all in the viewer's head. But that was unheard of and mind-blowing. We would not have, 8 years later, when Romero and Russo got together and said, we're going to, the dead rise and eat people. We wouldn't have that if it weren't for Hitchcock and the boundaries he made. And obviously Hitchcock, the people that, Todd Browning is the one who really put stuff on film, and that his work would eventually give birth to Hitchcock. Hitchcock would give birth to the filmmakers that came after him, which is why this is such an important movie. And despite the fact that, people may watch it today and be like, this is so tame, what is going on? I've seen, literally, of all the knife work that gets done in this thing, you see one injury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the detective on the stairs. And it's not even that extreme.
Another really quick thing before we move on. Psycho came out during the time where horror films kind of had to wrap up with a quote happy ending, or at least a resolution, like a permanent resolution. And you could definitely see Hitchcock pushing the boundary on that one as well, with Norman Bates' last thoughts, and the fact that we're left with this unhinged character and that grin, and that's just kind of seared into your mind before you walk out of the theater. Definitely wouldn't call that a quote happy ending.
And
oh no, Anthony Perkins dropping that deal when he's looking at the fly. I wouldn't even kill that fly.
Right.
And just that smile at the camera. Yeah, this bad guy. He's not going to jail like this. We're going to see more from this dude.
Right.
And that's why I wanted to talk just a moment about Anthony Perkins, because he does a brilliant job. Every time I watch Psycho, I truly believe he is Norman Bates. Like, that is all I see in his eyes. He just portrays that. That is perfect casting. And I just want to give a shout out to Anthony Perkins, because he created... You're talking about, we have the horror icons from the Universal Monsters, and a lot of them already come from, like, literature. This is one of the first horror icons that's purely original.
Yeah.
So,
and I love that he got to continue to play it in all three sequels. That he was Norman Bates, and it wasn't until the AMC series came out, Bates Motel, or Bates Hotel, that it continued, or it was Bates Motel. Anyway, but until that series came out, we got a new Anthony. I would say we got a new Norman Bates, his young Norman Bates. We got
another one. We got a different one before the Bates Motel.
Yeah, you got the Vince Vaughn one.
Yeah.
Oh, the shot for the Gus Van Sant shot for shot remake of the film.
Yeah, shot for shot, just in color.
Yeah, which wasn't bad. Vince Vaughn was actually really good in that. He gets a lot of shit for it because I was the Psycho, obviously, but he actually did really good in that.
I think it can be summed up. He captured the sell moment for the character is that final scene when he's in the interrogation room, and he's just sitting there and he's looking at the fly.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that they're watching him, and when he shoots that kind of grin, looks up at the camera, you could see. I thought he captured that perfectly, because you can kind of see flashes of Norman, flashes of the mom. The kind of mentalities there where they're kind of mixing together. I thought he nailed it.
He didn't do a bad job in it. I don't think he did, but to me, it's one of those remakes where it's like, why does it exist?
It did. Yeah, it didn't need to happen.
It didn't need to happen. I mean, it was, but I don't think it was a cash grab either.
No, because it failed. It failed miserably.
Yeah, I think it was Gus Van Sant wanting to do something experimental.
Yeah,
you're right. It doesn't feel like a cash grab, but it's just I didn't see the point of it. I just didn't.
Especially with it being a shot for shot. It's kind of like when they redid The Omen. It's like, come on, guys. We've seen this movie already. Can you show us? Remake the movie. Remake it. Don't reshoot it. Remake the movie.
Hell, we have a trilogy. We have 3 of them. So yeah.
Yeah.
That brings it up to the audience, and we talked a bunch about Psycho, but I'm very, very curious. I want to ask the audience. Hitchcock's entire filmography is just legendary films after legendary film. What is the audience's favorite Hitchcock film? Now, I know a lot of people are going to say Psycho, but so many others. There's The Birds, there's Rear Window, there's Vertigo, there's,
North by Northwest.
Murder,
yeah.
North by Northwest. There's so many good ones. My absolute favorite is Rear Window. I fucking love that movie. It is so brilliantly shot and so well paced. It is crazy how good that movie is. But I'm very curious. What is the audience's favorite Hitchcock film? What about you guys? What's your favorite Hitchcock film?
If I want to go pure cinematography, I would do Vertigo.
Nice.
Because that's one of the films, the one take film, like 1917. Today it's still kind of like, oh wow, Alfred Hitchcock was doing that 60 years ago. Because Vertigo, if you watch Vertigo looks like one. The one take.
Oh shit! Orson Welles did that in oh god dang it.
Hang on.
Face of Evil. Where Charlton Heston played the Mexican dude.
Oh,
That's an insult.
Or
Right
Touch
there,
of
by the way.
Evil. Touch of Evil.
Oh, Touch of Evil. I'm sorry, not Vertigo. The Rope. That's what I was talking about.
Oh.
Yeah.
And but Orson Welles did that whole opening take of Charlton Heston and the girl walking down the street, cars going by, pedestrians all over the place, and it was like I think it was like 7 minutes, and it was the opening of the film, but the camera's on them, following them as they're walking down this busy. There's traffic. There's all this stuff going on, all one take, no cutaways. Camera moving amongst the people, amongst the traffic, create the whole deal. Orson Welles pulled that off. That was really, really sick.
And see,
but yeah.
And what's impressive, so you take Rope and you take what Orson Welles did. These aren't cameras like DSLRs today. These are huge cameras.
Yeah.
These are cameras their
cameras.
size of a desk.
Yes.
That
Well, they in order to move like that, it required full platforms to do that.
yes.
Big ass moving platforms that had to be generally pulled by people.
Yep.
So that is impressive.
Very good. What about you, Johnny? What's your favorite Hitchcock film?
I've got to fall back to The Birds simply because it was
Nice.
the first one that my father and I watched together, and everything about it, the lack of score, the lack of, I mean, just the juxtaposition of this beautiful area and this horrific shit that's going on. It's got to be The Birds for me.
That the scene when Tippi Hedren goes upstairs because she hears the noise,
Right.
and she opens the door, and they're already in the house. Oh, that scene just is cemented in my head because it's just like it's so minimalist.
Right.
You know, you hear this very slight noise. Just, what is that noise? Don't go investigate the noise. You're in a horror movie. Don't investigate noises.
Right.
And she opens
So this is before that trope had been beaten to death, right? So
Yes.
I guess he can be kind of considered the one to start that shit too. Fucking Hitchcock.
Oh, crazy. But definitely, to the audience, let us know. What is your favorite Hitchcock film? Let us know in the comments or hit us up, weekinhorror@gmail.com. Johnny, what do we have next? I know we're getting into your favorite genre.
Oh, this is definitely not my favorite genre. It's a matter of
That's
fact,
why I gave it to you.
As a matter of fact, I fucking hate this genre of horror. It is my least favorite genre. However, we've got Grave Encounters that came out September 9th, 2011. Oh, let's see. It was by Sid Vicious. No, I'm kidding. The Vicious Brothers. Colin Minihan and Stuart Ortiz. I like Sid Vicious better, but whatever. Starring Sean Rogerson, Ashley. What is that? This is why you gave it to me, not because.
You're not a true host unless you butcher a name. So
That's true. We're gonna go with Ashley Grisco, Mackenzie Gray, Juan Reidinger, and Merwin Monsier. You have to put that in there, or it doesn't count. And Matthew K. McBride. Basically, this is a story about a movie producer, or not a movie producer, a television show producer, who takes these people to go and hunt ghosts. And of course, it has to be a found footage film because you can't hunt ghosts without found footage film. And,
True.
yeah. So these guys, I guess it was the Grave Encounters was a TV show, a reality TV show that was directed by ghost hunter Lance Preston. And then it was canceled after 5 episodes or some shit because the crew disappeared, and they went to go search and figure out what happened, and they find the footage. And apparently a bunch of ghosts ate them up. Made them eat rats, pulled them into pools or tubs of blood. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. It's interesting you brought that up because you can only hunt ghosts if it's found footage. I mean, and that's
so
interesting because the birth of the found footage was, can we say, is Blair Witch Project?
Absolutely. And here's why I don't. This is why I don't want to lump Blair Witch Project into found footage, even though it most definitely is found footage. The Blair Witch project did it the best. They never show any supernatural shit, not once. everything is off screen and everything happens in your mind, which is how a found footage film should be.
Yeah.
But nowadays, everything, it's like, oh, shaky camera, all of a sudden, then jump scare. It's like, fuck off, man. I'm tired of this shit. Can you go back to the roots and do something that's, something that's what a found footage film to me is supposed to be something that's purely psychological.
I would agree. And I find it interesting because you mentioned the hunting ghost, where I was going with that, because, Blair Witch kind of established the subgenre of found footage. But then when ghost hunting shows started coming out, like Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, like that, all of that is technically found footage as well.
Right.
It's not found footage, but they're doing handheld stuff. They're walking through scary places and they see weird shit. Now, usually I would say actually it's all fucking fake, but
right.
That gave birth because now all of a sudden it's, we can go and we can use handhelds and we can run around and we can look for scary shit. Just like they did in the Blair Witch Project. Which in turn told filmmakers, we can make movies where guys run around ghost hunting. And so it kind of created a cycle where the more movies that got made, it justified more reality shows. Which then in turn justified more found footage movies. Where now we actually get to see the scary shit on film. On the found film, and then so on and so forth. That was but there's something to be said there, because there are obviously lots of misses, a few hits, but lots of misses in the found footage genre. Like the Blair Witch Project and like As Above, So Below. Both really, really good.
Yeah, and the thing is so the found footage genre comes from like Cannibal Holocaust, because that's a found footage film that came out almost 20 years before the Blair Witch Project. So the Blair Witch Project wasn't the first to do found footage. The Blair Witch Project was the first one to be really successful with it.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
and
the whole campaign behind it, my goodness, it was brilliant.
And this is something when you really think about it with found footage, right? So the Blair Witch is one of the most successful indie films of all time, and it had an amazing campaign that went behind it. And you think if you have a film that big, everybody's career should go to the stratosphere, and no one went anywhere.
Yeah, what happened to those three directors?
And the problem is because with found footage, like the Blair Witch Project is a great movie. I like the Blair Witch Project, right? It is a great movie. I can see why it was revolutionary. I saw it in theaters and everything like that. But it doesn't showcase true filmmaking ability. And that's the issue.
Yeah, because it allows you for sloppy, because they want sloppy camera work, sloppy, bad lighting.
Yeah, you're
all that stuff. You don't have. But then again, some people can argue that and say, no, it takes a pure genius to make chaos, to make order out of chaos.
But it's when you look at stuff like the cinematography of it, it's like, okay, great, you can do great shaky cam, but I don't know, as a director, I don't know if you can do like Blade Runner 2049, like cinematography on that level.
That's not fair though, right? That's kind of an unfair comparison, because you're talking about a Ridley Scott film that's got buku's bucks and all kinds of experience behind it. When this was their first film, when this was started out as a film school project.
Yeah,
something like that.
And then birth out of this, they managed to cobble together the money. It was like $60,000.
No, it was like 10
total
grand.
Oh, I'm going to talk about with the marketing costs and everything.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was about 60. It was about 60,000.
In total, it was like $60,000 total, and then it banked like $290 million.
Yeah.
But what ended up selling it was the concept of it, and the fact that the marketing behind it.
What ended up selling it was the fact that everybody said it was real, and people bought that shit.
And even with the three characters in it, they were specifically told to lie low. So they didn't do interviews, they didn't push it, they didn't do anything like that, because they wanted to sell that realism. That's why the film itself is so epic, and no one really went on to do anything, because they weren't able to market just themselves off of it. But there are a lot of factors that go into a successful found footage film, and the first one is you have to be believable as the reason why it's found footage. And a lot of films miss that. Second one is you have to have somebody carrying a camera, and you have to be able to justify it. Like if you look at Cloverfield, I can't fathom the reason why someone would carry a camera the entire time.
Yeah.
during all the shit going on with giant monster and all this other kind of stuff, to the point where like the one guy was eating and shaking around and somehow the camera survived, and then the main character picks up the camera and keeps going just for some reason. So when you look at like the Blair Witch Project, or you look at
the world has to know.
the world, blah blah blah. So when you look at something like the Blair Witch Project, or you look at something, because I consider even something like Paranormal Activity, found footage.
I was just about to say Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, Paranormal Activity.
Because it was like, because that can't really happen. But I was is that a little bit more along the lines of, oh, that could possibly happen than the giant monster film?
Yeah, it's something. It explains the reason why it is all found footage. And I think that's the biggest thing, because with Blair Witch Project, they are like, okay, well, we're filming stuff, and you have the premise of that it was found, and it was believable, like the scenes where they turn on the camera, because there's moments in Blair Witch Project where the camera's off. You can tell because it'll cut to black and then cut to something else. So they immediately turn the camera off versus having the camera going the entire time.
Interesting. Yeah, and there's that debate as to which one was more successful, because the budget for Paranormal Activity was higher than Blair Witch Project, but they spent less on the marketing on the back end, or they spent less on the marketing and the advertising for that movie. So it just kind of like, because they were kind of riding the wave, and they happened to hit it just right. That's why it banked like almost $300 million as well.
Yeah. See, Paranormal Activity kind of rode on the coattails of the Blair Witch Project.
Definitely.
So, and again, I didn't like Paranormal Activity. Look, if I'm in a house and a bunch of fucked up shit is happening after, I'm bye.
I'm leaving the house.
I'm out.
The investment is not worth it.
No.
I'm doing a George Lutz, and I'm getting the fuck out.
Yep. Pack your shit. Let's go. All right, you guys want the house? You spirits want the house? You can have it. Just let me get my shit and get out.
Now, see, and now coming back around to Grave Encounters,
right?
And I'm really curious, because I really enjoyed Grave Encounters. I thought, out of all the found footage out there that is either absolute trash or just weak. They pulling from Blair Witch, pulling from Paranormal Activity. They did this. They worked their camera this way, so we're going to work our camera this way, or something of that nature. Just clones and just shit. But occasionally you do get some serious hits, and I really enjoyed what the Vicious Brothers did with this particular film. You do see the supernatural stuff show up. You do see things going on. But there was something that set this film apart, and honestly, I think it was not showing the supernatural stuff. It was, it didn't feel like a copy of Paranormal Activity, but seeing things happening on the camera when nobody else was around, you kind of feel, it felt very, I would say, inclusive, where it really drew you in. But one thing they did is, the Vicious Brothers, I went back and watched this again, they did a lot of stuff where they set the camera up. So the character's coming along, we're going to shoot this hallway. He's setting up the camera, his face is all in there. It's like, okay, that looks good, the angle's good. All right, fantastic. And then the guy leaves. And then the camera's still there. We're still watching this empty hallway. And we watch it for a good 30 seconds. And then, or maybe 20 seconds, and then nothing happens. Then it just cuts away. Like we're kind of expecting, like the tension without release.
Right.
Oh, are we going to see a glimpse of something? No, we didn't see a glimpse of anything. It just goes on something else. And that played multiple times until the weird stuff started actually showing up. And I think that is kind of what set this apart, because they used the technique of tension without release, of building it up. Are we going to see something? Are we going to see something? Where we're actually psyching ourselves up instead of the movie psyching us up.
Yeah, because it does play great with some of the pacing of that, because when we were talking about like holding that shot for a long period of time, and go back to the nurse killing Exorcist 3, how the camera's down the hall, and it's like a 5-minute shot. Like
or House of 1000, when the crane pull away, when Otis has got the deputy at gunpoint and he's just standing there holding him at gunpoint, and the camera's like pulling out. Holy fuck, like, shoot him or do something.
Just shoot him already. Just get it over with. So it does play better than, I will say, some other movies, say like maybe like Quarantine or something like that. Dude, I definitely still think like Blair Witch is better.
I just don't think that found footage. I don't know. I don't like the whole jump scare aspect of found footage. That's like overly played now. And it seems like this one did it a little too much. I mean,
Yeah,
I can see.
I didn't feel like there was a lot of jump scares in it. I felt it was more like surprise jumps in there. It was more like, you know, they're reacting to something, and then the camera turns and kind of reveals what they're reacting to.
Yeah, I guess for me that's more. I don't know. I guess I feel like that's more jump scares. Like when they have to put in that big sound. Sorry,
Yeah.
Angela.
Okay.
Sorry, Angela.
Okay, yeah, you can get the audio jump scare as well.
You know,
And I did like the you know, them running around this, you know, this asylum, and then at a certain point the asylum starts changing, and you know, a door where there was a door, there is no door, and you know, wait, or you know, you go into another area of the hospital, and all of a sudden you're over here in this area, and this doesn't make any sense. I did like the kind of labyrinthine shifting nature of the asylum. You know, you're not in this reality anymore. We've been here for 10 hours. Why is it not light outside by now? Shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which plays into the whole. It's a huge influence of like Silent Hill, which is kind of the feel like went into it. Where it's anybody who's played the Silent Hill games, you always have the dreaded hospital, and you'll go through the hospital, and you're like, okay, I'm done. And then all of a sudden the alarm goes, and you switch dimensions, and then you go back through the hospital, and the hospital's completely different.
We got faceless nurses and sexy faceless nurses who want to stab you and shit.
I don't
care what everybody says. Those nurses were hot.
I don't think JL and I have the same definition of sexy.
The princess in 13 Ghosts. Sexy.
No, she was dead. JL.
And
you say that like it's a bad thing.
I've made my choice.
I've made my choice and I'm comfortable with it. Thank you very much.
Hey, look, I'm not going to shame you. But they put people in jail for that.
I'm not going to kink shame, but that's really unsanitary. I for one, I really dug Grave Encounters. I like what the even though it is obviously it's at this point now, because this came out in 2011. By this is 2020. Yes, the subgenre is worn the fuck out. It has been tramped and trodden in all manner. We've seen every version you could possibly, and we still get more coming out. Obviously, they're much lower budget. You can catch them on Amazon Prime. A lot of stuff like that. A lot of them have shifted from supernatural to cryptozoology, like Bigfoot movies and shit like that. But I think this is that Grave Encounters was one of those hits. I like what the Vicious Brothers did with it. I liked the story that they told. It definitely it warranted a sequel. Grave Encounters 2 was really good. Another group of people go back to find out what happened to the first group and wind up falling into the same deal, but it expands upon the kind of mythology of the series. We get more backstory, and hopefully there will be a third one. I hope so. I've heard they've been planning one.
Well, so I guess that would be our call to action there. Audience, what do you think? Should there be a third third a third Grave Encounters of this here genre series? What do you think? Let JL and Eugene know. weekendhorror.com thing. God, I'm terrible at this.
If you visit weekendhorror.net or weekendhorror@gmail.com.
You know what? Fuck it. Put it down in the comments below. There you go.
Boom.
Done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eugene, we got one movie left.
All right, we got one movie left.
There you go.
Hey, I'm the guest, damn it. It's not like I've done this before.
You have.
Twice.
I think that was the point.
All right, so we got for our final film, it was released September 12th, 2014. We have the movie Honeymoon. And it was directed by Leah Janak. I hope I pronounced that right. and it stars Rose Leslie from Game of Thrones and Harry Treadaway. And basically, in a nutshell, you got a honeymoon couple, and the bride ends up goes sleepwalking in the woods surrounding in a secluded cabin that they're in, and she comes back, but she comes back really different. Something really bad happened out in the woods.
Yep, sounds like everybody.
I really, this movie really surprised me. I really, really enjoyed it. And Johnny pointed it out to me. Harry Treadaway, seeing him this way, I was like, I was thinking, where do I know this guy from? Because he was fucking Frankenstein in Penny Dreadful.
Yeah,
it's pronounced Frankenstein.
No, it's pronounced Igor.
Walk this
Frau
way.
Blocker.
No,
come on.
Way.
No, no one's gonna give me the horse noise.
Yeah. The lightning.
Frau Blocker.
So yeah, this has to be my favorite genre of horror film. When you talk about the minimalist, because it allows everything to happen in the viewer's head. Well, not everything, but the majority. Like this is where you scare yourself. You use minimal tactics to create the most tension, the most dread, and the most terror. So much better than all the other jump scare bullshit. Absolutely love, and this is kind of like a sci-fi horror type thing, which is right up my alley too. I don't know. I kind of like whenever going back and looking at this film. I don't know why, but I kept thinking about Annihilation. Don't know why, because they're not really the same, but they kind of are.
Oh no, I can see that connection. I can.
That's a similar feel.
Yeah.
Like it really is. And I'm with you. This is one of my favorite genres of horror because it doesn't need the flashy stuff. When you watch films of like minimalist horror, they may have 2 jump scares, 1 or 2 in the entire film, because to me, jump scare doesn't make a good horror film, but it's the ability to create tension, the ability to let your mind go to some dark places. So you can go and hold a certain shot for a long period of time and then cut away, but you're like, what was I just watching? Why is it holding this shot for so long? Why?
Right. And then there's that part where the protagonist kind of walks in after investigating the woods, and he sees his newlywed wife talking to her. It's like rehearsing how she's going to talk to him, because obviously she's not the same person anymore. Something
is different, and I thought it was. I loved it. I loved Honeymoon so much because it was so character driven. And when you have 2 immensely talented actors, Rose Leslie and Harry Treadaway, and Harry Treadaway as the guy who's just wants his wife, and is cannot for the life and figure out what the fuck is going on. And I love how Rose depicted that the kind of like the terror of losing herself and trying to hold on to everything she knows as it's slowly being taken away from her, and the dynamic of that. And yes, in minimalist horror, I think there were a total of 4 actors in this movie, or 3. No, there are 3. I think there were 4, and we don't even see the other 2 very long. So I love how it was so pinned on their development, their arc, and how you don't need, like you said, you don't need these, but you don't need the jump scares, you don't need the big audio cues, you don't need this stuff. Little character driven terror. And this one was actually quite scary to me. I'm married. I've been with my wife for a long time, and putting myself in the character's shoes, seeing your loved one, especially you just got married. This is the first time you're together as man and wife. The weight that kind of comes with that, and then all of a sudden she's being stolen from you bit by bit. You can do nothing about it.
Yeah, so the minimalist thing for me, it forces the storytelling to be extremely developed. You have to have an excellent story, because there's not a lot of pizzazz, there's not a lot of flash, there's not a lot of that. Oh, buckets of blood to kind of deflect you from the fact that the story is shit. No, this is story driven horror, which again, it's my favorite type of horror. That the story in itself is the main focus. You can get into like the Freddy versus Jason, where the story is kind of cool and everything, but it's really about how many people get killed and how they get killed. Whereas minimalist horror, specifically like this shit here, it's very much, well, what's going on and why is it happening? And what can we do to stop it? Oh, we can't do shit to stop it. So what's going to be the ultimate outcome? It forces that story, and you have to be a really good storyteller to make this type of film work.
You really do, because that is the focus. And this is why story and characterization will always get you through, no matter what type of horror movie you do. If you want to do slasher, you want to do supernatural, you want to do other stuff, solid story will beat anything.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
anything.
And that's why I think this film resonated so well with me. And this wasn't a big smash hit. It was a fairly successful little film, but I think the reflection as far from a storytelling standpoint, and the subject matter being so relevant, I think in today's society, in any society whatsoever, the idea that little things can create big divisions, even between two people who were just married. They're hopelessly in love. They got their whole lives together in front of them, but even the smallest little details can start creating it, because we see that even the little things, like when after the first incident, when she does stuff like she forgets to put coffee in the coffee maker, or she is cooking and she's forgetting, and little things that she's forgetting to do, and then she's just blowing them off like whatever, I'm tired or something of that nature. But they those little cracks are already starting to have big effects on her spouse. And I think we deal with that. We deal with that each day in and day out in real life, and made this film resonate so much more dramatically with me,
yes,
so much more poignantly with me, because we see that every day. Only this goes to a much more terrifying conclusion that the scene in the boat still gives me chills. Just how that winds up, just kind of just like, God damn. Just that's a terrifying way to go. Is in my opinion. It's one that scares me. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but that one scares me a bit. But yeah, you see that, and you could see any relationship in that, and that made it all the more scarier.
Yeah. So the thing that we got to look at on this type of movie, Honeymoon specifically, is not necessarily. I mean, the story itself is excellent, but it's the undertones. It's like the interpretation of the story. What are we trying to talk about here? And this focuses on, I mean, if you take a look at this, right? So let's take a look at this story. It's about two people who fall in love, and something happens to cause them to split apart. And from the man's point of view, what he is seeing, what he is witnessing, is that his wife is deteriorating, no longer becoming the person that she was. She's forgetting the little things. And if you look at marriages that end up breaking up apart, if you were to talk to the individual spouse or individual people who were involved in a relationship, this is exactly the story they tell. That something changed, and it seemed to come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden things were different. And then it slowly just deteriorated. And that's what makes these types of horror films so effective.
It killed me, because like at the beginning when he starts noticing, and you could see he starts at first until he realizes something really truly sinister is going on. He does blame himself, because it's always like, oh, now she's suddenly realizing that she's married to me.
Exactly.
And there is kind of a self. It's like, what did I do? And he's sitting there. He's really self-checking. Be like, did I do something? Or maybe she's getting cold feet now because she realizes the reality that we are married together. And you see, he begins to self-reflect, and we've all been through that in relationships in our times, where something happens and a change is triggered, and all of a sudden we start looking at ourselves, start looking at things around us. And it's scary, and it's heartbreaking, and it made it all the more palpable.
Right.
Yeah. And the thing is, a lot of the best horror out there, it reveals stuff inside of us. We relate to it in a certain way, and it says something about us as people. That's where the horror genre, a lot of the horror genre originally came from, because people were commenting on the society they were in at the time. You take Frankenstein, for example, or Dracula. Dracula is a commentary on the rich, on the nobility. But at the time, you couldn't write bad about the nobility, so they created a character, a fictional character that you could write about. So horror, the essence of horror is about ourselves.
Absolutely.
I've always seen it as that necessary. It always delivers the necessary catharsis that sometimes some people really need. The ability to I would say placate, emotions or thoughts or urges in that respect, that we can see them play out, and maybe we touch on them a bit vicariously, but we get the catharsis we need by seeing these scenarios, which is why I think the fan bases are, everyone all these our community loves horror, but the base is divided into their subgenres that they really and truly love, that they always go back to. Like me, I will always go back to the 80s slasher. I love the 80s slasher. My wife is a huge fan of classic horror, of character driven stories, and depictions of people in extraordinary scenarios. Where it's all about them and not about the what you see on screen. Mm-hmm. And everybody's got their own love, and I can see the appeal of it. How to put it? It's such a necessary staple for us to get that kind of release.
It really is. I mean, it really is, because horror movies, to me, it's like a roller coaster. It is. You get on a roller coaster because you want to feel that adrenaline, you want to feel that near excitement without the actual consequences of it. Because you can get invested in the movie, you get that catharsis out, and then it's over.
I think I freaked Johnny out a little bit. It was like, yeah, because I identify with Friday the 13th. Big time, man. Stabbing campers and smashing people. It's great. It's the catharsis I need.
Yep. Look, we're about to talk about one of my favorite series of all times here in a minute. Speaking about what we identify with.
Oh yeah, but this is actually something I want to ask the audience, because we've been talking a lot about minimalist horror. Are you a fan of minimalist horror? Do you like films that are just have maybe 2, 3, 4 characters, 1, 2 locations, and that's it? Or do you like the big slasher films and the big supernatural films and all this other, because these basically have so many different characters and all this other kind of stuff? Are you a fan of minimalist horror? So let us know in the comment below, or shoot us an email at weekendhorror@gmail.com.
Sweet.
My favorite.
And I believe we have a couple of birthdays, right?
We do.
The first birthday we have coming up. I'm so glad. I love this dude so much. Born September 7th, 1940, the master of the thrill and one of the masters of horror. I want to give a big happy birthday to Dario Argento, the man known for the giallo subgenre, Italian filmmaker. Oh my God, his stuff, legendary filmmaker.
I mean, absolutely somebody who has had a huge influence in the horror genre. Coming off the bat, the first film that obviously pops in my mind is Suspiria, which is beautifully shot. He's able to use colors in a way that we don't see, and definitely not at that time, that we don't see a lot of.
I would say almost Kubrick style.
Yeah.
Not to say that, in that respect, but his ability to frame a scene and capture and to utilize the environment as much as the actors that are in the environment in order to establish story or establish emotions, whatever it is. But the way he captured and framed a scene is just absolutely stunning. Not only in Suspiria and the follow-ups to that, Inferno and The Mother of Tears. Mother of Tears came out in 2007. It's kind of like the Mother of Tears trilogy. So those two follow along with that, with Inferno and Mother of Tears after Suspiria. So definitely check those out if you haven't. But the stuff that obviously, and he worked with some of the greats. He worked very heavily with Sergio Leone, and also worked with George Romero, because he was a script consultant on Dawn of the Dead in '78.
Yeah. And on top of that, he did 2 episodes of Masters of Horror, Pelt and Jennifer.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
oh God, he did Jennifer, right?
Yeah, he did Jennifer also.
Oh, that one was so fucked up. Johnny, did you ever see that?
I don't think I saw that one. Which one was that?
That was the one where the guy finds the super, super hot girl out. She's the ultimate butterface. She's literally from the neck down, she's crazy fucking hot. But from the neck up, scary monster face. And he finds her in the woods. This guy, he comes, I think it was Timothy Hutton? But anyway, I can't remember who the actor was. But anyway, he goes out and he finds this dude about to kill this girl. Like, he's literally straight up about to murder him. And he intervenes, ends up killing the guy, and then kind of, becomes enthralled with this girl with this hideous fucking face, but this smoking ass body. And it turns out that she's like this mute, animalistic, feral creature thing. And he's just like, in fact, there's a lot of, sexploitation. There's a lot of sex in it, like a lot of sex. Why anyone would accept a BJ from that mouth, I have no idea. Because it was that's just, no, not with those two.
Yeah, dude, that's a lot of trust.
That's a lot of trust. But yeah, super, just a really, really wild film. It was part of the Masters of Horror series that aired on Showtime.
I used to watch that. I can't believe I didn't see this one. You mean you wouldn't take a BJ from that face?
Not from her. No, not at all.
No.
But his another thing I want to get kind of I want to let people know about his animal trilogy, because he had the bird with the crystal plumage, the cat of nine tails, and 4 flies on gray velvet. That kind of, I love that he did have themes that he wanted to explore, and he did them in trilogies, which is so cool, because so few directors get the opportunity to do what Argento did in the 70s, and that was an excellent trilogy that I highly recommend anybody come up. But of course, also Suspiria and the Mother of Tears, the Three Mothers trilogy is definitely something that people need to check out. But his influence is far and wide, and I can't think of any horror director that has not gone back and looked at Argento's kind of filmography and been like, yes, this. I see little pinpoints all over the place.
Yeah, because he's one of those, you have to turn towards him. I mean, people have already said, people like John Carpenter and Wes Craven have taken inspiration from him. And it's just a matter of brilliance. Like I said, a lot of his films they're Italian, but definitely check them out. If you want to...
Yeah, also Zombie.
Yeah, Rob Zombie is a huge fan of...
No, Zombie, Z-O-M-B-I.
Oh, Z-O-M-B-I. Okay, sorry.
Zombie and the English, it was in Dawn of the Dead and Martin. He was heavily involved with, so you can see his effects in that one as well. But yeah, definitely, and I think I don't know if this generation here really has the respect for Argento I think he deserves. As far as, maybe too far removed, do you think?
It may be because he's Italian and he does a lot of Italian films. Maybe people just aren't branching off as much. Or just people just aren't talking about him, because serious filmmakers we know who he is, but the casual viewer, even the casual horror viewer, doesn't know who he is.
Huh. Well, for the gamers out there, it should also be noted that Argento contributed to the development of Dead Space. And I can see his effects all over, like his inspiration kind of all over that film. And he also did the dubbing of the character of Dr. Kine in the Italian version of the game, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
So really cool stuff. Definitely wanted to pay homage to one of the greatest horror directors, Italian director Dario Argento. Still going, still putting stuff out there. He's getting up there, but I hope we get to see some more cool stuff out of him. So definitely a happy birthday to Dario Argento.
Happy birthday, Dario.
Happy birthday to you. You're getting a BJ from her.
Oh, that's not a happy birthday.
Oh, I couldn't stop. I couldn't help it.
And Johnny, we got one more. I know you love this one.
Yes, this is my favorite horror icon of all time. That is the one and only Doug Bradley, born in 1954. Holy shit. The only version of Pinhead that makes sense.
Yes.
Yes, one of the ultimate horror villains. When you have somebody come up to you and they're like, "Your suffering will be eternal."
It's so freaking cool that he is one, and he's one of only 6 actors to play the same horror character at least 6 consecutive times. That he holds at his team. He's up there with Christopher Lee, who played Dracula in the Hammer films.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Englund.
Wonder who he did.
Warwick Davis.
Oh God, does that count?
yes, it counts.
Barely, but yes.
Brad Dourif.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Chucky.
No,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, and Tobin Bell.
That sucks too.
Jigsaw is a good character.
Fuck Jigsaw.
Okay, in comparison to the head priest of the Order of the Gash, yes, fuck Jigsaw. Pinhead obviously takes the cake on that one. I don't even know where to begin as far as the imagery there, as what Bradley brought to that character. Because we've seen, since Bradley has left the Hellraiser franchise, we've had other Pinheads come along. Obviously, no one can touch what that man brought to it.
No, he had this looming power. Like every time I saw him on screen, I just felt helpless. Like, what the fuck would you do if you encountered him?
Exactly. If you think about original Hellraiser, Pinhead and the Cenobites were on screen for like 15, 20 minutes tops, and then an entire film. And that film is not about the Cenobites at all. Like they're not a villain in there. They're not a hero in there. Nothing. They're
technically they're tertiary.
Right. They're characters in the story, yes, but the real villain is Frank Cotton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you've got you got her storyline. Oh God, kick me in the head.
Kirsty.
You got Kirsty's story.
I'm sorry,
Kirsty, you got Kirsty's story. Then you've got Frank's story, and how those two intertwine. And the Cenobites just kind of in the background, the force of nature, staring in the face of a hurricane.
Right. Exactly. They're not the focal point of the film, even though they really become so much. They become so in the future films to follow. But it wasn't like Hellraiser. The thing that really drew me to it, I mean, outside of the fact that it was the first, I don't know how many of the audience remember like Blockbuster Video and shit like that of actually going to the movie store and picking out you had to go pick up the box and take it to the guy and he gave you the movie, right? I don't know how many people remember that, but in these stores, they had everything genre separated. So I would always walk down the horror aisle, looking out of the peripherals because, we're not allowed to look at, my mother said, we're not allowed to look at the horror films. Don't look at those horror films. Okay, Ma, I'm not going to look at it. I'm just going to see it at the side of my, and that box, that Hellraiser box is the first horror film box I remember seeing. I was like, what the fuck is that? That looks
just
cool.
him on the cover holding the lament configuration.
Yeah, this is fucking cool. What is this about? And that like really just sparked my interest in the whole series. And watching that film for the first time, I was like, holy crap, this movie is not about Pinhead. I'm kind of disappointed, but not because this film is really good. There's a cool story here. It's about, how we as people are assholes.
Yeah.
I can get down
self-serving assholes.
Right. Yeah.
I love that. And I don't know how many people know this. I always thought this was seriously cool when I read about it. But Bradley and Clive Barker have been longtime friends.
Mm-hmm.
Because they both attended secondary school together.
Right.
Bradley had worked with Barker on many projects, kind of helped him out, and that's what kind of landed him the role of Pinhead. Mm-hmm. The kind of it might be that his English affectation, and then kind of like he's very dry and not he doesn't really emote in that. It's just kind of like he's a force. Or he is the avatar of that force.
Right.
And it's just like, this is simply the way it is. A function of the universe. And I love that stoicism that he brought to it, that classic English stoicism that he brought. And it just made it all the more scarier. And you could not identify with this thing.
Yeah, that's exactly what he is he's a thing, because he is, like, apathetic. He's not invested in it. He's just he's there. He is just a force. This is what it must be, because it must be. And
God, I'm here to pick up the pieces. I'm here to keep order in chaos. I'm here, the box, you opened it, we came. This is what you get, and now we're going to show you, you wanted this. You wanted these pleasures or these pains, or you wanted, this is what you desired, and here you go. Here's the spoils or the fruits of your labor.
That was always so creepy that they could tell if you wanted to open the box because you were looking for it, or if you did, or if you opened it by circumstance. That respect, I love that notion. And of course the lament configuration, one of the most iconic images or the most iconic items in all of horror.
But what Bradley managed to get easier and easier to open.
Yeah, I know. Because I remember in the first film, that thing was a bitch.
Right. Here's one thing that I did a paper on this film, talking about the sexualization of the sexual conversation that's going on in this film. Obviously, Clive Barker being a homosexual, there's a lot of BDSM and all this stuff with the Order of the Gash, the way they look, the fact that they are about the pleasure of pain and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But when Kirsty Cotton is sitting in that bed and she's playing with the box, where is the box located? I mean, it sounds like I'm setting this up as a joke, but it's really not. So there's a very interesting conversation about sexuality going on throughout this whole film.
Explorers of the further reaches of experience.
Well, yes, for certain, right? So here she is, we don't know her sexual status, but we can assume that she is a virgin, right? Here she is playing with her box for the first time, and all hell is released.
And all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
So the sexual conversation that's going on in this whole film is one that I wrote a paper on. I was very proud of that paper, and I got an A on it. So,
Yeah, that's interesting because it's kind of reflective of Clive Barker's upbringing and the kind of era that he lived in when he was in England.
Well, even if you think about when he wrote this film, like the whole idea of being gay, it was.
Or I say when he wrote the short story,
right?
The
Hellbound Heart. The Hellbound Heart. Yeah, bespoke. But when he wrote that, living that lifestyle, it was very different in the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah, because you had still over in Britain, it was like a persecution of it, and you even had, like, say, Alan Turing, who was forced to take hormones to suppress his homosexuality, and it fucked him up for the rest of his life. Like, that's not far removed.
No, right? Really
repression comes out in scary, scary ways sometimes.
Yes, it really does.
Like Pinhead.
You suppress me, this is what you get. Cenobites ahoy.
Cenobites ahoy. That's the next Hellraiser film. Hellraiser, Cenobites ahoy. It's on a ship.
Fucking might as well be.
You have Pinhead on the bow with like a cavalry sword leading the way.
Well, as a bummer as it was that Bradley did leave the franchise, which is a fucking shame because he is Pinhead for all intents and purposes.
Yes.
And others have tried to don the mantle, and I will always give shit to Fat Pinhead. That was obnoxious, but I am glad that that Bradley, having solidified his status, being Pinhead, that he has continued to work successfully. He was in Night. He had a small role in Nightbreed. He was also in the Pumpkinhead franchise, Pumpkinhead Ashes to Ashes. He had a role in Book of Blood, in Clive Barker's Book of Blood, which is a really, really underrated horror film. I really enjoyed it. And he's continued to work solidly, which makes me very happy, because sometimes you get that icon, and then if you're not that anymore, that's all you've got. I think Kane Hodder, Robert Englund, Tony Todd, and Doug Bradley have been able to really push forward and continue to do stuff. Typically in the horror genre. I did not realize, I've just recently found out that he was actually in the fucking Wrong Turn movies.
Yeah, I just saw that. The Wrong Turn 5 Bloodlines.
Yeah, that was wild. I did not know that he was Maynard, so that's kind of weird. But for your gamer fans out there, because obviously Bradley's got that iconic voice, that hardcore shit. He was the voice of the Sith Emperor in Star Wars: The Old Republic.
I didn't know that.
And I did not know that until recently. I thought that was wild. I'm going to go back and look for that and see if I can recognize him. But he's still going strong. And hopefully, one day he maybe, I don't know. I think he's in that same boat as Kane Hodder. Could we see Doug Bradley as Pinhead again one day?
The only way that happens is, first I have to apologize for, just completely screwing him and insulting him with that offer they gave him for Judgment. Not Judgment,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Revelations?
Yeah, Revelation. They offered him $2,000 to play the part, to which he said, "Go fuck yourself." And it was a shit movie.
Yeah.
And Dimension needs to stop only making a Hellraiser film when they're about to lose the rights, because people want to see a good Hellraiser film. They're desperate for it, and we haven't had one in so many years. The last two were garbage. I mean, a lot of people liked Judgment, but I thought it was just stupid. It was over the top. It didn't fit in with what Hellraiser was. More so than Revelation, but even still, the story was like, man, it doesn't work. It's dumb. It's stupid. Come on.
I only dug it because it expanded upon the mythos, if you would. I like seeing more of what goes on, in that realm. I kind of dug that because there's the comic book series,
yes,
which really expanded upon a lot of that. But I liked seeing it in cinematic form. This is really the only thing I dug about it. Otherwise, it definitely was quite lackluster. Mm-hmm. But there is good news on the horizon that Clive Barker is rebooting Hellraiser, the original one, because he still has I think he recently regained the rights to the first Hellraiser film. So that story, Clive Barker has, and I heard that he's doing a reboot in there, so maybe we might get some Bradley action.
Maybe.
And that's where I was going to go.
Maybe. That would be nice.
That would be super fucking cool. To see Doug Bradley as Pinhead one more time, to see Kane as Jason one more time, we can hope. We hope that they haven't retired the roles. But yeah, definitely.
We need to get all three of those guys together, by the way. I know Robert Englund said he's retired from playing Freddy. But if they can get a Freddy versus Jason versus Pinhead thing going.
Oh, fuck it, man. Throw Ash in there for good measure.
When we talk about the Expendables of horror, so.
The Expendables of horror. That would be sweet. What kind of movie? Now, you wouldn't have them appear as the characters. You'd want just the actors in that story, right?
No, I want the characters in the story.
You want the characters?
Yeah, let's have the characters.
Okay. That'd be fucking sweet.
So from everything that I've read about Freddy versus Jason is that Doug Bradley was Pinhead was supposed to make an appearance, but they couldn't get the rights from Dimension, and they couldn't work out a licensing deal. So they had to scrap it. Like that was going to be the script that they shot. Doug Bradley came in at the end of the film as Pinhead, and that was it. That's where they made his part of the crossover.
Well, that's interesting because I also heard that the original idea of the story was Freddy versus Jason versus Ash was the script running around, and that how they finagled Ash into that was Freddy used the Necronomicon to raise Jason.
Mm-hmm.
And in raising Jason, also raised a shit ton of Deadites, which brings Ash into the mix.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the same script. So if you keep reading to the end of that script, that's when, at the very end, that's when Doug Bradley shows up. It's supposed to be a really brief cameo. But
that would have been cool.
That would have been really good.
Welcomes them both to hell or some shit like that.
The Necronomicon and the Lament configuration existing in the same universe, that's just too much.
That's 2020 in a nutshell.
That's 2020.
Yep.
Yes, that is
Here we
2020. But definitely, I'm so glad we got to chat about him. That's a big happy birthday to Doug Bradley. Happy birthday, sir.
Happy birthday, Doug.
Birthday.
All right. Well, that concludes another episode of Week in Horror. Thank you so much for listening. We could not do this show without you. If you want more information, go ahead, check out our website, weekinhorror.net. And we have a mystery shirt going on. Asking a question, JL.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have if you throw your email address into our mailing list, every month we do a mystery horror shirt drawing, and once you're on our mailing list, you have an automatic entry into that every single month.
Yeah, so go ahead, go to website, sign up for the email address. That way you can get that mystery shirts. I've seen a couple of them. They're awesome. They're cool. Definitely go ahead, check out the website. And also, it gives you the opportunity. We're looking for feedback, comments, questions. We want to hear from you. So definitely let us know. And you can go to our email, weekinhorror@gmail.com. And that way we can communicate because we want to hear from you. Let us know what you think.
We're very lonely.
We are very lonely. Alex loves to read them. So you definitely email us. And then if you like what we're doing here, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/weekinhorror, where you get early access to our bloodbaths and our After Dark. Our bloodbaths, where we use our horror knowledge. We take two icons, pit them in a battle to the death to see who will come out on top. And also on top of that, every month we have a special guest. They're on a regular episode, but we kind of sit around and chat with them a little bit afterwards, which is called the After Dark. So you sign up our Patreon, you get early access to both the Bloodbath and the After Dark. And then go ahead, check us out on Facebook, on Twitter, at Week in Horror, where you get a daily splatter. It's a little bit of horror knowledge every single day. And then on top of that, we have our YouTube channel. Yes, we have our YouTube channel.
Yes.
We're so many places now. So you can check us out. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on our channel. That way, whenever new episodes pop up, you will be notified right away. And on top of that, check out our Teespring merch. We have a t-shirt on there. We have sticker on there. We will have a magnet on there. We keep talking about that. We have a magnet on there. And we have a mug on there too, correct? A mug? Yes?
I
was waiting for Johnny to say, because Johnny actually got one of the mugs.
Oh, yes. So we have t-shirts, mugs, stickers, soon be magnets at Teespring Week in Horror. Thank you so much for listening.
And I want to jump in there. Real quick, Eugene. I'm sorry. I actually made a big change. A big change came to our Patreon.
Oh, okay.
Recently.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have multiple tiers at Patreon. At Patreon, we have tiers as low as $1 a month. You can help to support the show. We also have $3, $6, and so on. But our big tier, we only have 5 of them. We just created the big tier for $25 a month. And you get all the previous rewards from the other tiers. But I made a big change. For the 5 that actually choose that, we will bring you on the show. Going forward from this point on, anybody who jumps on that big tier, we want to hear what you obviously are a horror fan. We want to hear from you. If you've got what it takes, if you think your knowledge is up there with us, and you want to jump on that and support us, we want you on this show. We want to hear from you. We want to talk with you. We want to talk movies with you. I wanted to say, you know what? There's some big ass horror fans out there. I want to reward them big time. You want to talk about horror? You support our show like that? Boom, we are bringing you on. There are only 5 of those available because we have very limited space. We have special guests. We have a lineup of special guests come on the show. We have our bloodbath debates that we do. So time is a crunch, but we have 5 slots. We want to give them to you. You can get them with that big Patreon tier. Check that out, patreon.com/weekinhorror.
That is so amazing because we would love to have you on our show. And what we do best, we sit and we check about horror films. So we want to know. So check out that $25 tier and have an opportunity to be cemented on the Week in Horror podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, we
so
only had
much.
one free one to give, and we gave it to Johnny.
Yeah,
That sounds like a mob threat.
we had to settle for Johnny. So if you can do better. No.
That's right. I mean, I set the bar pretty low.
But finally, thank you so much for listening, and we appreciate your continued support. And I'm Eugene.
I'm JL.
And I'm Johnny O.
We will see you all next week, and as always, stay scared.